What's up, everybody? This episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast is brought to you by Off the Record. You know about Off the Record. We love Off the Record. They are the best. You know why? Because they stop the bad things from happening. You know what I'm saying? All of the bad things that can happen. Every bad thing that can happen while behind the wheel of your car. No, I'm just kidding. But sometimes you get pulled over and ticketed for things that are stupid. Not even true sometimes. You know what I've learned about cops? They make stuff up. They lie. They lie on the stand. They lie to you. They don't really have a good reason, to be honest. And Off the Record is here for you. They're your advocate. Sometimes you get pulled over and you go, I'll just plead guilty to this ticket. It'll just, I'll pay the fine. I'll go about my business. But that is stupid because it's not just the fine. It'll follow you around. It's the insurance, it's the court costs, it's all those extra fees. Off the Record is here. offtherecord.com/TST or code TST10 on the Off the Record app. They will fight any and all tickets from the small to the very big on your behalf. They will set you up with a qualified attorney in the jurisdiction in which you got that ticket. They'll go to court, they'll deal with the prosecutors, and they'll get those points off of your record. Their success rate is amazing. Off the Record is so good at what they do. You don't need to worry about it. They just handle it for you. It's superb. All you got to do is go to offtherecord.com/TST or code TST10 on the Off the Record app. 10% off all legal services with Off the Record. They will set you up. And, of course, Dylan Optics sunglasses, the only sunglasses I ever wear. They have been a sponsor for 13 years now of the Smoking Tire. Not only have they been a loyal sponsor, they make the best sunglasses around. Double polarized, folks. Double. 2 polarizers. It's better than 1. Plus, basically totally customizable. You choose your frame, your color, matte finish lens. You get a pair that you're not going to see on anybody else. I have never, ever, ever in 13 years wearing Dylan Optics sunglasses every day, I've never seen another person wearing the same glasses as me. Never. Even when it's Clapman, it's never been the same. He's got all the same glasses I've got because he gets hooked up too, and his don't even look like mine. He's right next to me. Dylan Optics is the best. Their glasses are amazingly high quality. The lenses are incredible. The colors are really cool. They're very different from any other glasses. They've got a Wayfarer styles, wraparound styles, aviator styles. They can even do prescriptions. They do it all. Go to thesmokingtire.com. Click on the Partners tab, and then you'll see the Dylan banner right under there. If you use that link, I'll send you a free Smoking Tire t-shirt with each pair of Dylan Optics sunglasses ordered. All right, folks, on today's show, it's a crew show. Zach and I are at home because Zach's got a little tickle in his throat. He's a little sick. We don't want to be spreading it around, so we have the technology to podcast from home. I'm at my pool. He's at his crib. We are talking about all the amazing old Porsches that I drove in Germany on this most recent trip, as well as why my 3 trips in 4 weeks to Germany made me hate American roads. We talk about potholes. We're talking about Tesla scamming their own customers, which we should be used to at this point. We talk about some great questions on the Patreon. Oh, and we talk about me almost having a panic attack because I had way too much, well, not almost, actually having a panic attack in Germany because I had too much caffeine and I was sure that I had gotten COVID. It's a crew show. Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Hi, folks. Welcome to my backyard and Zach's apartment. Mm-hmm. Zach's got a little tickle in his throat.
I got something.
You'll hear that. Yeah, it's definitely something.
Yes.
Definitely. I don't know what he was doing with his Burning Man friends, but something was coating his throat.
I haven't seen any of them in a long time. I don't know what I did. We stayed in all weekend, but I just woke up and went, oh, that hurts. That's not good.
I think as soon as you hit live, it got fucking worse. For the 5 minutes we were on before this, holy shit. Are you drinking some tea with honey or something?
I got tea with honey. I got mushroom coffee.
Mushroom coffee. You're doing that?
Like the Four Sigmatic stuff,
Like is that the, no, I know, but like that it's that chaga shit.
Yeah, but I looked at the package and it's basically instant coffee with some mushrooms in it. So it's hard to tell if the chaga is giving you any kind of energy or if it's just coffee. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
A couple people tried to sell me on that chaga stuff. And I was like, yeah, like, because when I was in college, we used to slang mushrooms. That was how I earned a living. And we did this by grinding them up into a powder and putting them in gel caps. And so now, it took me a long time to eat any kind of mushrooms. I ate so many mushrooms in college that I like couldn't eat regular mushrooms
Even
for a
like
long time.
Porcinis or something.
Yeah. Like it was close enough where I would like gag. And now I've finally grown past that, and I'm actually starting to enjoy like really good mushrooms now. But the chaga stuff being like dried mushroom powder is way too close to the ground up mushrooms we're slanging, and so I can't do it.
Yeah, I understand that.
But whatever helps. Your voice sounds fucking shit.
Yep. It happens.
What were you actually doing? Were you doing anything?
No, we didn't do anything this weekend. That was like, we didn't stay up late. We didn't go out partying. I think we cleaned up the house and went for a hike.
Maybe you've got fucking black mold in the house, dude. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's come inside.
What did I do last week? I mean, I'm sure I just walked past someone that sneezed, and like that's how this stuff happens. So who knows? I sound like Batman.
Yeah.
I just learned that everyone made fun of Christian Bale's voice in the first Batman, and so the second one, he didn't do that voice. They did it in post. They did it in post. So everyone's like, "Why did you act this way?" He's like, I didn't. I did it like this.
Yeah, he actually sounded like Alfred in the second one. Where we must have read the same fucking Christopher Nolan interview or something. It was like that. It was that tweet thread that was about Christopher Nolan. Yeah, that's where I read it. That all of that information flow tracks. But dude, on my flight to Germany for Spyder RS, and I'm sorry we can't talk about Spyder RS on this show. I have some other things from Germany I can talk about on this show, but the embargo is August 7th, so I have to wait for Spyder RS. But I was in business class, and it was pods. It wasn't full rooms, but it was pods, KLM, pretty nice. But this woman behind me, dude, was coughing and sniffling the whole flight. And I was like not happy about it. And I just got such a fucking bad vibe, dude. And then the first, nothing happened. Okay. The second day we were in Germany, which was the second day, which was the day I actually shot the video. It was, it was pretty chilly. It was like, it's been hot in Europe, but it was like cold and raining on and off all day, which was good practice for the top, which we'll talk about in detail next week. Because on the last show, we talked about how you actually put the top on and off on this car. It's not the same as a regular car, but it's the Spyder. So you want to drive with the top down as much as possible. And I fucking forgot a hat. I didn't bring a hat. So open air, cold wind, whatever. And remember in England, like we drank like just an insane amount of coffee because everywhere we went to Goodwood had coffee, and we were just drinking so much of it. And same thing with this trip in Germany, like just drank a shitload of coffee. And the flow of the day wasn't what I thought it would be. Like we drove all day. It was based at this sort of like eco hotel out in the middle of nowhere in these Swabian Alps. You ever heard of the Swabian Alps? Mm-hmm. The Swabian Alps are Alps in the way that the Santa Monica Mountains are the Rockies. Yes, it's where Andy Preuninger goes to drive on the weekends. You know what I mean? So like if you live in Stuttgart, this is where you go drive. And he wanted us to drive the car on the roads that he developed it on, that he likes. So that's why we were there.
Gotcha. But the mountains aren't that tall, it looks like.
Right. It's nice driving roads, but it ain't Switzerland. Okay. But bottom line is we finished the drive, And I thought we were just going back to the hotel and spending another night and then going to Stuttgart. But no, we had to go back to the hotel at like 5 p.m., pack our stuff, and then take like an hour and a half van ride to Stuttgart. I had a big coffee for that. After having coffee at lunch, after having coffee in the morning, after having coffee at the driver change swap, like I didn't think about how much coffee I had had. Get to the Stuttgart airport hotel. It's now like 7 p.m. and I really want to work out. So I go try and do some cardio. And I don't know like about you, but like when I get on a machine that's sort of an unfamiliar cardio machine, especially where the instructions are all in a different language, you never know if you're making it too easy or too hard, like relative to your machine that you're used to. Turns out I made it pretty hard. And I could barely make it through like 30 minutes of this cardio. My heart rate's at like 158, and I'm like dripping sweat. And I just like want to go back. And I start to, and oh, by the way, the air conditioning in my room at this hotel is not working. So it's like just stagnant in the room. And I just start to feel really weird. And I get this crazy anxiety. Then I start thinking about this lady on the plane who was coughing near me. And I'm like, oh God, this bitch gave me fucking COVID. And then it because of the caffeine, it creates this cycle of anxiety and like symptoms and like heart going fast and sweaty and not really having an appetite for dinner and want to go to bed, but can't. And like, I just texted Hannah and I was like, I might have to be like stuck in Germany. Like, I think I'm fucked right now. Like, this is really bad. And I took 15 milligrams of Ambien. And I was like, because this is all I had.
Is that a lot? I don't know what the
that's a lot. Has. I mean, that's unless you're like a junkie. Like if I would take like 5 milligrams on a flight or like 10 milligrams if I want to sleep for like 10 hours.
So each pill is 5.
Yes. Okay. Each pill is 5. So I took 3.
And I was like, seems aggressive.
I was like, down, motherfucker. Let's go down. And I was like, so I ultimately woke up and I was also like kind of sniffly because I'd been outside in the cold all day, but then like sweaty and hot. And I was like, I was like having like every feeling possible, plus all the anxiety that I had now made myself sick. And as it turns out, I woke up the next day and it was okay. Did not have COVID, back to normal, had a massive caffeine overload combined with being outdoors in the cold, wet for 10 hours.
Did you have jet lag and all that stuff too?
Oh yeah. Plus a 9-hour time change.
Yeah. When jet lag hits real bad, it feels like the flu. I've had that real bad before where I was like, why am I warm and sweaty? And then the next day it was gone.
Yeah. So, and that was my third 9-hour time change in 4 weeks. So it was like really, really bad. Much worse than it normally ever is. So that was a rough one. Long story for a short punchline, which is that I didn't have COVID, but I felt like I gave myself COVID.
You do this like twice a year. You do, where like you wind yourself up somehow and think you're sick, and it turns out to be something totally innocuous that didn't have any effect. Right. I mean, that definitely does happen. And then it also happens where I really am sick and it wrecks my life for a fucking week. Yeah. You got sick like a month ago. Right.
No, it was a while. Like when I got COVID, that was like in February. It's July, man. That was a while back.
What day is it, man?
What day is it? I don't even know. So I can't talk about the Spyder RS, but Porsche was also nice enough to hook up not only a tour of their secret storage facility, which was fucking incredible.
Yeah. Packed in like sardines, right?
Yeah. But it's race cars and it's special production cars and it's historic cars and it's test mules. They're not, I mean, some of these things I imagine get thrown away, but there's some really crazy test mules in there. There was the first Cayenne test mule, which was a Mercedes ML body on a Cayenne chassis. There was the water cooled, the 996 mule, which I put a picture of on Instagram, is one of the saddest looking cars you've ever seen. It looks fucked up. And obviously it looks that way to disguise the fried egg headlights with these sort of pontoon fenders that are made out of cardboard, but it just looks like so droopy.
Oh, it does
shitty.
look bad.
And they let us drive some cars out of the museum, some of which were significantly more special than others. I passed on the '06 Cayenne they offered us. Yeah, isn't that the saddest looking car ever? The fucking 996 mule.
Well, the headlights look like Fiat Spyder headlights, where they're too vertical and they protrude too much. Wow, it's so weird looking.
Yeah, it's like, it's not even like they put like 993 headlights on it. Like they put like 70s Porsche headlights on it, and it looks real stupid.
Yeah, like, it's just powertrain test mule. Yeah,
I mean, I think it looks, you can kind of see that underneath the cardboard is probably a 996-ish body. They just put these headlight extensions on. They put these things that cover up the door handles, and they put 993 wheels on it, so you don't see the 996 wheels, which just makes it look real wonky and fucking strange.
Yeah, it looks like it has over fenders on, but they didn't get bigger wheels yet.
Yeah, it's really, really weird looking. But they did go to the previous post on the grams, and you show the yellow car, the one. So they let us drive some stuff, and the stuff that we drove, some of it was incredible. So this yellow car, which you can see photos of on my Instagram, is a one-of-one prototype that they built for a 964 Clubsport. So there's a Clubsport package for the 964 RS. This is not that. This is a 964 Carrera Clubsport. So it doesn't get the RS engine, but it has the RS suspension and weight reduction. It's sort of in between the RS America and the actual RS. And it was amazing. I mean, you know, I really, after driving this, first off, it had like 10,000 kilometers on it. So it was basically like driving a brand new 964. And it had bucket seats, light door cards, light glass, light aluminum panels. I don't know the exact weight, but it was pretty light. And it really made me think about how Porsche factory performance is really great, because they can make certain things lightweight that would be really hard to make in the aftermarket. And it was a package that was really fast, really responsive. The inputs were great, but also like the clutch, the brakes, the shifter were all really easy. I mean, like, you could actually daily drive this car and it wouldn't be an issue. Like, it's not super stiff. It had air conditioning. It was comfortable. It had headroom and leg room, and the clutch wasn't crazy heavy. And it had like 260 horsepower or so, but it felt like it was over 300. Like, it made great use of the power it had. And it just was so like tight and nice. Like, I understand why people pay all that money for a 964 RS. Like, that just makes sense. But this thing was like, fuck me, it's 30 years old. And I could get in it and daily drive it now and be perfectly happy, feeling like I had one of the best cars in the world. Like, just so engaging and fun.
That's impressive, because when I was there, I drove cars from the museum, and I drove I think it was the 993 like RS, the purple one. And it felt like they were on their way to, GT3 RS 996.
Right.
But in the middle ground, the 993 felt too heavy, too stiff. The steering was really heavy.
Yeah.
Versus this car, it sounds like, was that nice light feel from like the previous generations.
Right.
And then, the 993, they had kind of like a weird teenage year before they kind of figured it all out.
Right. The steering was heavier than other 911s, but the steering wheel was also a little smaller and it had wider front tires, and that may have been why, but it wasn't like, oh wow, this is heavy. It was just it also felt very sharp. It felt like you didn't have to turn the wheel each as much going into the corner as other ones. It was really, really quick, great. This white car was off the motherfucking chain. This white car, it doesn't really look like much, but this is a 1985 3.2 Clubsport prototype. And so they ended up coming out with this car 2 years later in 87. This is an 85. So this has a full aluminum body with a carbon Kevlar front bonnet, full lightweight glass, lightweight seats, lightweight door cards. It has the Carrera whale tail, and it has a 3.2 engine, but with a Porsche Motorsport short shifter in it. And this car weighed 2,233 pounds. So it was 1,015 kilograms, and it had about a 240 horsepower engine. This car was a fucking rocket. This thing was so fast. It was possibly the fastest. Like, I think this was the fastest G-body car like I've ever driven, except for maybe like an 89 turbo. Mm-hmm. You know, like this thing was ridiculously quick. I was at first I thought it was a 3.0, and I was like, what the fuck have they done here? And then I found out it was a 3.2. Okay, that makes a little more sense. But it was so light. I mean, they pulled like, I don't know, 500 to 500 pounds out of this car.
Wow.
And it was sweet, man. And it had a 915 gearbox, but with this Porsche Motorsport short shifter, it was the best shifting 915 gearbox I've ever used. But this one really hammered it home for me that these Porsche's lightweighting projects from the 70s and 80s are just really where it's at. You know, the production version of this car in 87, to get one today, it's probably 200 grand plus. They're very expensive. They're very hard to come by. And I understand why. I mean, I had a car two years newer than this, that I turned into the Safari, and it just didn't feel like this. It just did not feel nearly as, this thing was fucking so fast.
500 pounds is a huge amount of weight to cut out of a car. And that will affect, as we know, every aspect of it, braking, turning, everything. That is a ton of weight, especially if you're starting at what, 20?
You're starting at 28 and you're going to 22. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge difference.
It's like 20%. I mean, that's a lot.
You know, and it's not, and they're cutting it from all over the car, you know, and they're cutting it from the high points of the car. So, you know, my car had a sunroof, it had power leather seats, it had, you know, steel panels, and this car has no sunroof, Kevlar panels, light glass. So all of the weight is cut from the top of the car. And they gave us this really nice test loop to drive it on, which obviously they got from the engineers, because as we're driving, each of these cars is like a 45-minute loop. It's probably 50 kilometers. Mm-hmm. Really nice variety of windy roads and stuff. We went out, we started from this hotel in the middle of nowhere. And I kept seeing prototypes. I saw like 5 electric Cayenne prototypes, 2 electric Macan prototypes. There was a Taycan with a giant GT3 RS wing on it. Like, there's almost definitely a Taycan GT coming. There was the new 992.2 cab we saw running around. So like, this was the roads that all the Porsche guys were using. But that Club Sport was fucking epic. And like, I've now, after the 964 and that car, I've now on my list for eventually is own a factory lightweight 964 or G body car, because I don't think that is replicable in the aftermarket. Folks, we got to take a quick break from the action for Game Time. Game Time is awesome. It's straight up, it's awesome. I wanted to buy some WNBA tickets for my wife's birthday, and I found them on Game Time, no problemo. I got the best seats, literally courtside seats, pretty last minute too, and Game Time really hooked it up. It was a superior buying experience. I was really, really into it. The app was easy. It was easy to see where on the court the seats were. They got all kinds of great deals, whether it's music, sports, comedy, theater, you name it, Game Time has got it. You don't have to worry about the idea of buying the tickets. You can just worry about the fun you're going to have at the event you're going to see. Game Time's got flash deals. They've got last-minute ticket sales. It's really easy to find the ticket for any kind of event in your area. They got the stage and court and field view, so you can see what your view is going to look like from where your tickets are. And they offer the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, even job loss protection. If you lose your job, your financial situation changes, you can actually get your money back from Game Time. It's the place for last-minute ticket deals, so you never have to plan for months in advance. They've got ticket deals right up until the day of the event for football, for baseball, basketball, etc., comedy, theater, you name it. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less money somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag your tickets for the game without stress on Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code SMOKINGTIRE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but just create an account and redeem code SMOKINGTIRE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I just don't think that without a factory doing it, that it's possible to get it. I mean, short of Singer or Gunther, and you're talking $500,000, but the Club Sport, the Club Sport was as fun to drive as the Gunther, wow. And it had half the power.
Yeah. I mean, the weight removal of the roof is really challenging. There are some people have installed carbon fiber roofs on E46 M3s to get rid of their sunroof, but it is serious surgery. So that's what you're talking about, is removing and replacing an entire roof is serious surgery. Yeah, that'd be hard to replicate.
So that was amazing. And then go back to the photos. I drove a Super 90 1963 356. No seatbelts, which you want to think about every input. Think about the fact that you do not have a fucking seatbelt. This little red car, drove it in a pissing downpour.
Yikes.
And delightful. I mean, totally get it. I've driven a couple 356s. This one was probably the best one I've driven. Just makes a lot of sense. I mean, you drive something like this and you wonder why almost anything else you've driven from the late 50s or early 60s is just shit compared to this. Like, the car handles really well, drives really predictable. This one had disc brakes. This is a C. They had A, B, and C. The C's got disc brakes, so the brakes were really good, really easy to heel toe. 90 horsepower, but fucking 1,800 pounds or something.
Have you driven a Ferrari or something else of that cost from this year or era? That'd be a fun comparison.
No, I drove a couple later 60s Ferraris, but never something from the 50s. My understanding is they don't drive as good. I mean, the engines are good, but from what I gather, they don't drive as nice as these. It just, again, lightness and inputs. They valued that so much. I mean, these cars were winning Le Mans with half the horsepower of their competitors. And you also understand why people who own these and buy these can drive them so much. I mean, there's no reason you couldn't, this car's old as shit, but I'm out there with modern traffic going a modern speed. KC Colwell from Road and Track, after we were done doing these loops, we had to drive all the cars back to Stuttgart on the Autobahn in modern traffic. And Casey Colwell drove this one back and hit like 120 miles an hour.
Whoa.
In a car with 90 horsepower. I mean, it just makes the most use of it. This was on a de-restricted section, by the way. Someone else that drove the 959 back to Stuttgart and apparently went 170 miles an hour. Just like, whoa, fucking move it.
In a very rare, expensive car, but I guess.
Yeah. To drive the 959, you have to not think about the fact that it's $2 million. And actually, that's surprisingly easy, because once you're in it, in a lot of ways, it feels just like a 911. It's don't get me wrong, the 959, and I made a video with the 959. I didn't have a lot of time with it. It's not going to be the best produced video that we've ever made. Porsche Porsche actually very kindly offered to go out and get some extra B-roll, some car to car and some drive-bys of this, because I only had an hour by myself with this car. I had a little more. I had an hour transit because I drove it from Stuttgart to the home base, which was about an hour. And then I had another hour once we were there. So I got more 959 seat time than anybody else. But even that is not really enough to make a video. So Porsche agreed to go back and get some drive-bys and some car to car to fill it out, which was very nice of them. But this car, the 959, is amazing because it really previews where cars were going: turbocharging, refinement, insulation,
all-wheel drive, adjustable suspension.
All-wheel drive, yeah, adaptive stuff, and in a lot of ways, it feels you get in this and you go, this is not a 40-year-old car. It just doesn't feel like a 40-year-old car in how it drives. But in other ways, when you're kind of driving it and get used to it, it feels, for better or worse, like a regular 911, when you're just cruising along. And that can be good or that can be bad. If you spend $2 million on one, you might not be happy that it feels sort of like a regular 911 a bunch of the time, compared to a Countach or a Testarossa that you're never confused about what you're driving. On the other hand, it has some very crucial differences from the 911 that if you don't get to a 959 by accident. Nobody stumbles into owning one of these things. That's the end of the 911 road, right? And so if you know a lot about 911s, by the time you get to a 959, chances are you can appreciate the subtle differences. The shaved rain gutters and the aerodynamics of the car in general make it like Rolls-Royce quiet on the highway.
Wow.
100 miles an hour, top gear, just sailing down the Autobahn, and it's silent in there. And that was really, really amazing and very different from the other sort of lightweight special type cars. Sequential turbos. Most people are well aware that the 911 is turbocharged. Most people, I don't know about most people, I don't want to overgeneralize, but most people who think about a turbo 911 either think about the old school single turbo or the current and 993 and newer twin turbo. Well, the 959 is a sequential turbo, which a lot of people like the RX-7 and the Supras were doing in the early 90s, and Porsche was doing it first. It's one turbo and then the other. And so when you roll into the power, you've got a small turbo that comes in from about 2,000 RPM to about 4,000 RPM. It then dies off a little bit. There's a little torque dip. And then at 5, the second turbo comes in, which is much larger. And it's like a fucking afterburner has been lit. When you hit the second turbo on this car, it is ridiculously fast, even by the standards of a modern car. I mean, this thing is It's about 3,000 pounds and it's 450 horsepower. It goes like a motherfucker. And second gear, because it's got that G gear, right? The Galanda gear. So it's a 6-speed gearbox, but rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's G 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the reason they did this is not because the G is actually a crawl gear. That's how they market it. Oh, it's got almost like a low range crawl gear. It's for the Dakar rally, motorsport. That's not really why they did it. Why they really did it was, at the time, I believe it was Switzerland or maybe Austria, had a very strict sound test where you had to be second gear, full throttle, a certain speed, and you had to be below a sound threshold. So they just made third. They found a way to make third gear second gear.
Right.
So if you drive it around just using the G gear as first, it feels like the gear ratios of a modern car. If you drive around using actual labeled 1 as first, it feels like it has a much longer first gear, and you have to ride the clutch a little bit. And so you can really drive it like a 6-speed and just kind of ignore the numbers on the shifter. But
that's an amazing loophole.
It is an amazing loophole,
funny.
and it's very creative. And so when you put it in, quote, second, which is really third, and you get into the second turbo on third or fourth gear, the way this car picks up steam is fucking shockingly quick. It just goes so fast. And the difference between the first turbo and the second turbo, especially because there's that little dip in the middle, is amazing. And you could get used to it really fast. I mean, the 959 would be a great car to drive all over the country, to put a lot of miles on. It's really expensive to maintain these cars.
Yeah.
The fucking maintenance is real scary. So you got to be a super boss to own one of them. But it feels much different from every other 911. Certainly what the G-body 930 turbo felt like at the time. This is a wildly different car. Actually, closest comparison would be a Skyline, R32 Skyline, where same type of afterburner levels of power delivery, smoothness, and you drive it and go, this can't be from the late 80s. This must have been newer. The Skyline is even more impressive because it was so much more affordable and delivering, similar levels of performance.
Yeah.
The 959 is faster than a Skyline, but it's definitely that same vibe of, you can't believe, you can't reconcile the performance and the refinement with the era, because it's just so much better. It makes my Countach feel like a truck. And it was soft. It was really, compared to the 964 lightweight, compared to the Clubsport, this thing was really soft. It was a comfort version of the car, not a sport version, but it was set up. It's set up for long range. It's set up for touring. It's set up to drive across the country at 150 miles an hour and be ready to go to dinner, when you get to the other side. That's very, very neat. Yeah.
I looked up the slippery, going back to the quietness. The drag coefficient of this car is 0.31, which is, and the drag coefficient of a Rolls-Royce Phantom is 0.38.
Yeah.
So no wonder it's so quiet. That's
really, it was really, really quiet. And that was when I got on the highway and I stuck it at 100, a de-restricted Autobahn. I went quicker than that. I didn't do 170. That really stood out, because a rear engine car is already quieter than a front engine car. You don't have those exhaust gases that are passing underneath you. And then a turbo car is going to be quieter than an NA car. And then the 959, although the body panels are made of carbon Kevlar, it's a full interior car. It had the extended leather. This was a car that was set up to be comfortable. It wasn't set up to set lap records. So the refinement was really staggering. That was very impressive. But like, the video's cool. I got to go quick. I'm actually driving it in the wet, and I get to go pretty quick. Not every mounted shot matches the road I did the in-car on, because it's very hard to make videos in an unfamiliar location, because you want to gather footage, but you don't have the convenience of shooting it all on the same stretch of road. I had to shoot the mounted shots in transit. I had to make use of the fact that I got more seat time than anybody else by getting footage while I was doing it. So, not every, the road I did the in-car on, which you'll see, like, there's no center stripe. It's like a really remote road. And I had to drive a bunch of the mounted shots. There's a center stripe. And like, it's not a perfect video from production standpoint, but still you get to go have a fucking go in a factory, never sold to the public 959. Like, yeah, video is in order.
Definitely.
And then I drove this 944 turbo, which was very rare because it was one of a very small number of turbo convertibles. In the US, you couldn't get the turbo as a convertible. In Europe, you could, but they only made 500 of them. Honestly, like, I know there's people that love the transaxle 944s and 928s. They don't do shit for me. I mean, they're well made. They have nice balance, in a corner. But besides that, they're just, Porsche is so great because they do a thing like a rear engine or a rear mid-engine car, and they refine and refine and refine and refine and refine. And when they really put their best behind it, it's an incredible experience that's unique and unavailable elsewhere. A front engine rear drive car, you can get that elsewhere. And this car, although is very beautiful in maritime blue, and although there's nothing wrong with a 944 turbo, if you drive a great 911 or a 959 or a great Cayman or a great Boxster, and then you drive this, it's just another old sports car. I've never been in love with these. They offer the performance of a great Miata or an 86, but they cost a whole lot more money to maintain. The fact that it's a turbo, it doesn't really feel very fast. It's like 240 horsepower, and especially as a convertible, it was probably 3,200 pounds. Not an impressive power to weight. The brakes were only okay. The shifter was only okay. Yes, good balance in corners, but not mind blowing. Nice to get to have a little go in anything that's very rare like this.
Do you think?
Yeah.
So today, if you drive a Panamera, it's a front engine car. It's doing something that Mercedes has done for a long time. BMW has done for a long time, which is what this 944 was doing. But I feel like the Panamera is very distinct in how it feels, not just like interior quality, but it seems like they honed in on handling and feedback and all that stuff. Does this feel like they hadn't figured that out yet? So they just kind of made a comfortable front engine touring car?
No, they had figured it out. Compared to what other people were selling in the 80s, this was a pretty good car. Compared to a C4 Corvette. Remember, this is pre-Miata. So this is an 89 and the Miata came out in 90. So if you look at it in historical context, pretty good car. Same for the 928. In historical context, pretty good car. If you look at the front engine rear drive cars of the middle 80s, it's a pretty good car. And there's nothing objectively wrong with it. It's just that now, 30 years later, a lot of other companies have figured out how to make good balanced front engine rear drive cars. And these cars, being old Porsches, are very expensive to maintain. And to me, the driving experience does not justify the maintenance cost of these cars. They're just, if you look at them in a lens of history, okay, yeah. But the farther we get from the mid 1980s, the less it matters how it compares to other 1980s sports cars, because you're not just cross shopping it with what's available then. You're cross shopping it as a weekend toy collectible with everything that's been available since.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'll give him this. It was comfortable. It was very pretty in this color. And although we didn't take the top down because it was raining most of the day, it was probably a nice little cruiser, you know, that would be, you know, one of those cars that if you wanted a big Porsche collection, 944 Turbo Cab would be a great thing to add to it because it's rare, certainly in a PTS color, very rare. And it would make a good part of a well-rounded Porsche collection. My buddy Todd Blue would go fucking ape shit for this car, who buys all blue cars, because if your name is fucking Blue and you're rich, that's what you do. But just, you know, to me, not a special driving experience, considering this car would probably cost you 35 or 40 grand minimum to buy a decent one. And then, I don't know, few thousand a year for sure to maintain it as well. So just the experience doesn't justify it. I'd rather have, for that kind of money, I'd rather have a great, and I mean great, like 1995 Corvette ZR1. Which not built as well, but way quicker, you know.
Yeah, and I think it feels more special. Whereas, like the special Porsches are 911s for the most part.
Yeah,
that's what they do. The Corvette ZR1, like this is what Chevy did. Whereas this is like, I don't know, they needed to build something for that market segment, but it's not their specialty.
Yeah, I wouldn't go into a McDonald's and order the salad, even if it was an okay salad. You should go to the restaurant that does the one thing really well, and then you should eat that thing.
Yeah, I got a chicken sandwich at a pastrami place once, and it was terrible. And I was like, that's my fault. That's my fault.
Yeah. But man, in general, like European roads make me really annoyed at America. You know, between Monaco, our trip to England, this trip to Germany, it makes me so annoyed at America.
Well,
you can
great segue, because as I told you before the show, someone emailed me or DM'd me on Instagram. This gentleman is a road inspector engineer. So he shows up. He shows up when the road has been built or repaired, whatever. He's on the East Coast, not in California, but and he makes sure things were done correctly. And he was listening to our podcast
once the repair has been done.
Yeah, or sometimes during to see if they're doing the process right. And this is going to be rough. But he listened to our show last week where we were talking about pothole filling in California and Los Angeles and how terrible it seems. And I think one of us asked, like, is this just how it's done? Is there something about, you know, German road repair that's different than our road repair? Like, is it earthquakes? And he said, and a lot of these are going to be quotes, it is always human error. Sometimes it is the contractor cutting corners. Most times it's laziness on the worker. And then he laid out the proper way to fill a pothole, which there are instructions. Everyone gets these instructions. It's to cut a square, sweep or blow out debris, lay down a tack coat, wait for that to fill, then mix it. Then you either seal the edges with a rubber agent or another tack coat. He says, I have never seen it done that way. I tell the workers to do it properly. They tell me they've been doing it this other way all their lives, and I don't know what I'm talking about. And it becomes a huge issue. And then the area engineer just tells me, let them do whatever they want to do. He says, the United States has superior resources to any other nation when it comes to road building. We have the best material tech, road design, collected data. We have everything except workers who give a fuck about the quality of the work that they produce. And we taxpayers pay for a saw cut, cleaned, moisture-free pothole repair, but usually someone just shows up with a truck with a bucket of hot patch asphalt and a torch. And he sent me like a screen grab of the instructions. Here's how it's laid out where he lives, how you're supposed to repair a pothole. And he said, I've never seen it done that way.
That tracks. That fucking tracks.
But that sucks because, you know, taxpayers are paying the money for it to be done correctly. We have engineers that know how it's supposed to be done, and people who are getting paid to be there anyway. So I can only imagine, you know, because so much.
I wonder, you think they get paid by the hole? I can't imagine they do. I mean, and if you're a government employee or a government contractor that's in charge of doing this, you must be paid either salary or hourly. I can't imagine you're paid per hole. It's not a gig.
But
so like, what's the downside to doing it right?
Well, a lot of road work is not a government entity. It is a contractor that kind of appears like a government entity, but they're contracted. So like any business, if they want to reduce their costs, then they can go, well, if we pull out some of the material cost from this whole repair and we just use this thing, then we are spending less and making the same. That's I mean, that's a theory. I don't know. Maybe if this gentleman hears this, he can reply why people cut corners, because
I mean money sounds like a good reason. I mean, look, money and laziness are both equally valid reasons for not doing a good job.
Yeah. And who knows, there could be timeline pressure where they're like, hey, we need to get this whole road repaired in a month. And they go, well, we can't do the whole road in a month correctly if we do it like this. I don't know. Who knows? I bet there's a bunch of different things, but it sucks that we are so close. And yet the taxpayers pay the money. Our cars get damaged by these poor road repairs. And, you know, we foot the bill on both ends. Yeah.
And, you know, I said to Andy Preuninger, this is gonna get in the, it's not a driving impression, but I said to Andy on the Spyder drive, you know, I said like, oh God, your roads are just like so fucking good here. Like even the like not great roads are still like pretty decent, you know, and he was, I think he was sort of surprised. I don't know how much driving he does in America. I know he comes here from time to time, but it's such a stark change to come home from Germany and drive on California. And I'm not talking about the canyons. I'm talking about like just the everyday fucking roads. They're just so bumpy and shitty and poorly maintained. And also our system of traffic lights rather than roundabouts is fucking so uncivilized and dumb. I mean, we were in England. We drove across a third of the country, and I don't think we came to a stop. I mean, you know, like, and not just on highways or motorways, as they call. I mean, you can drive really far on a major thoroughfare road that has stores, houses, businesses on it without hitting a light. Like it just moves. It's just such an obvious way to reduce time that you're just sitting.
I mean, I wonder, we need to research the history. Like, why did Europe go with the roundabout? Did that spring from their wagon trail commerce or something like that? Or was it just they thought it was a better way, and then someone in the United States, a different traffic engineer or whatever, was like, I have this other theory, let's go with lights instead. I don't know.
I mean, I suspect it's something to do with our urban to suburban sprawl versus their connecting villages philosophy of road building. I mean, there's definitely like lights in London. You know, if you go into a major city in Europe, within the city, there are lights. It's not all roundabouts in the city, similar to our cities. But if you go to our suburbs, we have taken that philosophy to the suburbs, whereas their road system, which connects smaller villages, it is designed for that purpose. They just don't have nearly as many lights, so you just don't have to be stopped.
Wow. I was trying to Google the history really quick, but a study by Kansas State University found that the average delays were 65% less at roundabouts than at signalized intersections.
Yeah.
That is,
And not just the delay, the time delays, the stress. Because remember, sometimes in England, we would approach a roundabout and there would be a backup there, 15, 20 cars at some of the bigger ones. And yes, there would be cars waiting, but typically, you'd put the car in first gear and you'd sort of you'd be moving forward at 5 miles an hour. You're not just sitting there stopped for 3 minutes and then you move 100 yards and you're stopped again for 3 minutes. It does keep moving even when it slows down a lot, which I think is less stressful on the driver.
This is interesting. I found a post by an actual traffic Department of Transportation engineer. Someone asked them why we haven't changed to roundabouts, and it seems like we're kind of stuck at this point because it takes a lot of land. This is quote, it takes a lot of land to build a roundabout, the cost of which is not included in the cost above. So in many cases, you'd have to knock down businesses, apartment buildings, other things to install a roundabout. Yeah. So it's.
Well, we're also not making that choice when we build new roads. It's not, I understand when something is, I don't necessarily agree that we should not make it a priority. I think we should, but I understand. But the fact is, we're not making that choice for brand new roads either.
Yeah. So someone said that we're in areas with heavy traffic, signals are better because a roundabout could just end up with a gridlock situation. Like there's too many cars coming in at once to have everyone just obey the right of way. Just depends on what number is required to be heavy traffic.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get to the Patreon questions, of which we have a bunch, the couple of things. Well, I think we'll talk about. I've got a Fisker Ocean, believe it or not. They brought me an actual Fisker Ocean, a running, driving car. But I've only had it for one day, and so I don't necessarily want to get into it till maybe if we do a show at the end of this week, once I've had it for a few days, we can talk about it once I've driven it more. But it is a very real car. Looks like that. And the one thing that surprised me about it was actually quite a bit less expensive than I thought it would be. The one they gave me is fully loaded, every option, and it's $68,000, which is in the wheelhouse of a Mach-E, an Ioniq 5, a Kia EV6, a Model Y. It's not Lotus Electre, it's not exotic. It's not an exotic car. It's not even really a luxury car. I mean, I suppose it is $68,000 is a semi-luxury car. But it is not, it's not exotic. I thought before they showed up, they're going to tell me this thing was 110 grand or something, but 68 grand fully loaded is not bad. And it does have some really neat design features. And it does have some very strange quirks, some of which I discovered in the first 3 miles of driving. So if people have questions, if there's things they want to know about the Fisker Ocean, we will have a video. If Zach is not well enough to come out on Wednesday, if he's actually sick, I'll shoot it myself, fine. But there will be a video on this. Interesting car. I guess you can call it a startup, right? Because it's sort of, I mean, they had a car before, but then they went away for a while and now they're back, and it had a very startup-y vibe. The way they dropped the car off with 2 PR people and 2 techs on a Sunday has had a real startup-y vibe.
Well, that's what, like Lucid, when we drove that up in the canyons, they showed up with the techs and
Extra
everybody.
cars. They
Extra
showed
cars.
up with extra cars for sure. So, and actually, I'm pretty sure it was dropped off by Heinrich Fisker's daughter. I don't want to like say her name, but her last name was fucking Fisker.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, there's something to it. But anyway, it's the base price of this thing is under $40,000. They've got the rear wheel drive short range version of it is 38 grand. So it's actually, by EV standards, it's pretty fucking affordable.
Yeah, it is.
So that'll be interesting. But speaking of EVs, I assume everyone has read about the Tesla range scam, which is let's just say not surprising at all. We have been talking for years about the fact that Teslas never seem to hit their range estimates, whereas many other manufacturers are either estimating pretty conservatively and they beat their range estimates, or they're accurate. And Zach's got an article up from Electrek, but it was reported across all mainstream car media, basically saying that these cars are algorithmically programmed to show an optimistic number on the dash for their range in the top 50% of the battery. And then once it gets below 50%, as it gets closer and closer to zero, that range number gets more accurate, because even when you're being shitty about your range estimate, you don't want people to be stranded. And so, but the alleged complaint is that top management thought that it would make people feel really good to see a big number on the dash when they charged all the way up, or more importantly, when they collected their car new from delivery, to see 350 on the dash or 400 on the dash.
Right, because then as you're driving, you're not really noticing it dropping that quickly, or as quickly as it is, and by the time you get to the half charge or a quarter, you just go, oh well, maybe I drove too fast, or maybe I was using the AC or whatever.
There's a lot of plausible deniability. Your behaviors could affect it, and most people aren't going to sit there with the cruise control at 58 miles an hour, hypermiling. It's now some do, and they're not hitting the range either. And then what's even crazier is that apparently employees in the call centers and the service centers were instructed to divert these complaints, not accept these cars in for service calls, because people, rightly so, thought there was something wrong with their cars. I thought I was going to get 360 miles of range. I'm getting 250. There must be something wrong with the car. And so they would have this, what they called a diversion team, to cancel service appointments that were related to range. And then the story goes even further to say that if the remote diagnostics found other problems, they would not tell the customers about other problems. So it was a systematic fleecing of the customers. And I mean, there are people, and I don't think the people are reasonable, but they say that I shit on Elon Musk and I shit on Tesla in a way that is not deserved. And then stories like this come out that pretty much back up the stuff that we've been saying for years, that these cars do not do the things that they are advertised to do, and that many in the media give them credit for the statements they make rather than the actions they take. And that this company has been valued way over any kind of normal metrics of valuation, based in no small part to these pronouncements and statements that, when truly independently verified, do not hold up to scrutiny.
Yeah. How were they able to get an EPA approved range number that was, very high?
So what we've been saying in the past is still true. There are multiple ways to do the EPA range testing. One of the ways, the way a lot of people do it, is by doing the exact EPA cycle. That's how almost everybody does it, which results in why almost everybody else has reasonably accurate range estimates. But there are other ways to do the testing, and I don't know the exact methodologies, but there's additional testing that you can do yourself that accounts for other ranges, other types of conditions outside the thing. And other automakers do have the choice to use the same testing methodology that Tesla has, but they just don't, because even though automakers can be shitty in other ways, they're not being shitty in this way. So they're right there on the story, the paragraph above that photo, design the range meters in their cars Tesla has consistently designed the range meters to deliver aggressive rather than conservative estimates. Okay, keep going down. It doesn't say, I don't want to say, oh, there we go. Paragraph below the bold. EV makers have a choice in how to calculate a model's range. They can use a standard EPA formula that converts fuel economy results from city and highway driving to calculate a range figure, or automakers can conduct additional tests to come up with their own range estimate. The only reason to conduct more tests is to generate a more favorable estimate. Tesla conducts additional tests on all of its models. By contrast, other automakers continue to rely on the EPA's formula that generally produces more conservative estimates. So it's on the one hand, the EPA and the governing body has offered multiple options. So you don't, okay, if they say here's three choices and one delivers optimistic results and one delivers conservative results, you can't entirely blame Tesla for taking a road that is offered to them. Okay, fine. Is it what I would do? No. But to then program your gauge in a systematic way that backs up sort of misleading results, and to then divert and lie to your customers about what you've done, now that's fucking shady and gross.
Well, yeah, it said the diversion team, like when they were able to sway a customer or just cancel an appointment, they were like muting the phone and hitting alarms, and they're just very excited because each cancellation saves Tesla $1,000. So it was just It was like a weird stock trading office where it's like, yes, we got them to back out of the
diversion team boiler room.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's range room.
Yeah, and so that's yeah, it's sort of like what we've sort of suspected, because we've been well aware that Teslas don't hit their range estimates. They just don't. And so if you quote a range estimate rather than the actual results delivered from an Edmunds or from Kyle Connor or from any of the people that really do the range testing, but it shouldn't be the consumer's fault for not doing all that research. Right. I understand why when the EPA sets a test and everyone has to do the same test, we end up in the same place we've ended up with turbocharged gasoline engines, which are great at the EPA test.
Mm-hmm.
But when you drive a canyon road using the rev range, using the throttle, or you drive, in Ford's case, the EcoBoost twin turbo V6 versus the 5-liter V8 and the F-150, fuel economy, it comes out to kind of the same outside of that test.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand the EPA having some flexibility in the test because it does potentially prevent automakers from gaming the test. But unfortunately, what they have offered has allowed Tesla to game it in another way.
I mean, no one, I don't think anyone would suspect a company would, put an algorithm in their gauge calculator on the screen in front of every driver that is going, oh, multiply by 1.1. I mean, that's kind of like what it's doing. It's really shameful.
I mean, it's not that different from Dieselgate, right? I think
Dieselgate was they knew how the test worked,
right?
And then they could change the engine calibration when it sensed it was undergoing that test. I think the Dieselgate is a little different because the testing side of it is similar, but now you also have a readout program. It's like with when the Tuatara tried to go, set the new speed record, and the detectives did all the work, and they discovered that the GPS speed calculator was set to like 1.2 for whatever reason. They figured out, they went, oh, for some reason this is multiplying the speed by 1.2. That's what
the actual functionality of the Dieselgate scam versus this is different. But with Dieselgate, the reason that it was discovered is because an independent lab, not the EPA, independent lab went, how come Volkswagen and their engines can make this much power and be as fuel efficient as they are and produce as few emissions as they're producing? What have they done? Because no one else can do this. And let's figure out what their secret is. That's what it was. So with this Tesla thing, it's, well, how is the car so fast and offers so much range for this size battery? Well, because it's not. It's just, it's lying to you.
Right. If it's too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah. So that's why. Now, let's balance it out. Let's fair and balance this bitch. Tesla has done something that is very funny. Have you seen the Indian reservation thing?
No.
So, Tesla in many places can't have showrooms. You need a dealership, right? Franchise dealership laws. Franchise dealership laws fucking suck. And not that you shouldn't be able to have dealerships if that's what you want, but I don't think they should be forced to have dealerships, right? You should be able to sell direct to consumer if that's your business model. And what Tesla has done, which is very funny to me, has gone on to Native American tribal land, aka Indian reservations, in order to get around these franchise laws because laws don't apply there. And that, to me, is fucking funny. So imagine you're going to the casino to Mohegan Sun or to Morongo, and there's your fucking Tesla store.
And there's a Tesla dealership. Wow.
Isn't that hilarious?
That's like, what's the guy who got arrested for the payday loan shit? He was in Dirty Money.
Oh, yeah, Scott Tucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they based their business on native land because it's the only place they could get away with it for a couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, just really, really fun. That to me is funny. Like, because in that case, it's almost like righteous scamming, like you're not scamming your customers. You're not scamming other people on the road with your fake self-driving software and putting me in danger on my motorcycle. You're not scamming your customers with range. You're sticking it to a system that is fundamentally against new car business in general, and against direct to consumer, and that the dealer lobby is pretty fucked up and has a lot of power over how cars are sold in this country. And in my opinion, they shouldn't. And so this is actually a very funny loophole to get around this shit.
Yeah, the article says that in Connecticut, Tesla, Lucid, and Rivian were all trying to lobby to change the Connecticut, I think, franchise laws. And because they couldn't, Tesla said, all right, we'll just open a showroom in the Oneida Indian Nation.
It's at Mohegan, which is really funny. Yeah, that's where we when we lived in Greenwich, Connecticut back in the day, we used to go gamble and shit up there. Yeah, I mean it's very, very funny. So points against for scamming their customers, points for scamming the franchise dealer system. Fair and balanced, baby. Okay, let's do a few Patreon questions. And let me pull it up. I don't want to hurt Zach's voice, so I will read some of them on my telefono. Tony Rodriguez, of course, if you want to get in on our Q&A, patreon.com/the Smoking Tire Podcast, get an ad-free listening experience, ask us questions for the live show, and also only patrons will have first access to my TST Notice collab watch, only 100 units. The order books will be open this month. I will send the patrons the email first. Tony Rodriguez Salgado says, is there a place in California where you can experience unlimited track sessions without track day traffic? Private racetrack country club? Absolutely. Thermal Club, Palm Springs. That is a private racetrack country club, and members can get out there all day, every day. Lucas wants to know about Spyder RS versus Demand Spyder. That is embargoed, and we'll have to wait until after that. Dave Cucci wants me to do more cooking. Now that I'm settled into my new house and kitchen, will we get a Patreon exclusive smoking fryer? We could do some cooking content on Patreon. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Is that what do people want? Do people want cooking videos? Maybe.
I don't know. We could just make one and see what the response is like.
Yeah. Kyle wants me to help choose a motorcycle, but the three choices that he lists, the Suzuki GS XS 1000 GT, Yamaha Tracer 9 GT Plus, and Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX. I've never ridden any of them. So I'd love to help you, but I have absolutely no idea. If anyone in the Patreon comments has ridden any of those bikes, maybe follow up on the comments there and help Kyle out. I don't know. Random Dustin says, random thing I learned relating to fashion edition vehicles like the Eddie Bauer Explorers, etc. AMC had a Levi's edition Gremlin in 1973 with a denim interior. I remember that thing, and it was fucking cool, actually. The denim interior was dope. It actually is. Look at that paint. It's like almost like a slightly darker version of Ford's Grabber blue, or it's kind of like Porsche's Miami blue.
It's got a hint of purple in it. Where's the interior? I
don't know. Is there a photo in the?
Oh, there's no interior photo.
No interior photo. It's fucking denim. I mean, it's blue jeans. It is pretty cool.
Does Jay Leno have one? He should.
I don't know, but he really should. That is very neat. Let's see. Dre in Houston says, I'm a huge car enthusiast, obviously, since I'm here, but I'm also an aviation nerd. I have 1K status with United, and I'm sure you guys have whatever the equivalent is with Delta. That's true. Diamond, baby. Diamond status. I have over 1 million miles on my Delta account right now, and I'm almost that's like what they call MQMs, which is like the miles that you can use to like buy flights and shit. Mm-hmm. But I have 770,000 flown miles, and you get some kind of permanent lifetime status when you get to 1 million flown miles.
Whoa.
So anyway, Dre's question is, with the amount of travel you all do, is there any amount of enthusiasm or interest in aviation, or is it an arduous means to an end?
I have tried to care because so many of our friends in this industry, like Sam Smith and JF Musial and Camden Thrasher, like they love planes, even commercial planes. They can walk up to the plane and go, oh, we're on the 767, and I just can't care. I just can't bring I respect the engineering marvel that is commercial flight, but I just do not care. It's like a bus for me.
I agree.
It's a very impressive bus.
Yeah, if we're talking about commercial aviation, I don't really care that much. I mean, there are some planes I like flying on more than others.
Very true.
I really like 787s. I really like 747s. I really like Airbus A380s if we're talking about international travel. And I've never booked or not booked a flight based on the type of aircraft it was on. But there's a little bit of nerdery to be found there. I mean, I would love to find the time and energy to get into private aviation. I mean, not like Gulfstreams. I mean, like flying a little propeller plane around, because the people that I know who do it seem to enjoy it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have the time, the money, the energy to put towards that with my work schedule. Yeah. I'd love flying if it was all fucking PJs everywhere, but PJs are very bad for the fucking world. That's why I don't fly on private jets. It's because they're bad for the world. Lucas announced, says that Koenigsegg announced there will be both 3-cylinder and 8-cylinder versions of the Gamera. Who is the base model Gamera marketed to? 100 millionaires?
I'm curious what the take rate will be on. The take rate on the V8, I think, will be 90%.
My guess is China, or possibly somewhere with a heavy tax on vehicles over 2 liters. Because the 3-cylinder is a 2-liter engine, or it's a sub 2-liter engine. And when a car is like $3 million, it might be, it could be a big number.
Maybe. I think, I assume if you're buying a $3 million car, you know, one, you can pay the taxes, but you're also really good at avoiding them, probably. So you'll figure out a way to do that.
Yeah.
I just think the V8 is so exciting that everyone's going to order that thing. But you have a good point. That's a good point. You make a good point.
It is. And I suspect they offered the V8 later because people weren't super stoked about paying all that money for a 3-cylinder. That would be my guess. And maybe the initial orders weren't as strong as they hoped, and so they went, okay, fine, we'll do the fucking V8, and then people were in. Suzuki Luki, thoughts on the 2015 Camaro Z28? I remember hearing a bunch about it when it came out, but I feel like I've heard no one mention it for years. I mean, that's because it's not old enough to be a classic collectible yet, but it's a fantastic car.
I mean, great car for track driving, fast driving. It's really exquisite, but you know, it's 8 years old. So
it's in the valley, right? It's in the valley where it's not a collectible yet, but it's not as exciting. I mean, the ZL1 1LE that they were selling up until, you know, a year ago or 2 years ago had a lot more power and basically the same chassis stuff that the Z28 had. So it did perform better and had more modern conveniences in it. But the 2015 Z28 is probably a great buy and hold. I think they're in the $30,000-$40,000 range. Just get one with air conditioning. I mean, it's got an LS7 and air conditioning delete was a no-cost option. Some people went for that. Hey, just get the fucking air conditioning.
It's like 30 pounds.
It doesn't affect the power really. But yeah, it's probably, I agree, Lukey, that it's probably not discussed as much as it could be and is an amazing driver's car. 404 user not found says, for a budget of around $1,000 for a watch, would you recommend an automatic movement from someone like Hamilton or a Quartz, something like Citizen Eco Drive? I mean, for the most part, like watches in great part because of the machinery of the watches. Quartz doesn't really interest me. I only own one Quartz watch, and it's the Carl Ruiz watch, and I like that watch, but I own it and I love it for reasons that are completely unrelated to the movement, even though it's a Grand Seiko Quartz, which is as good as Quartz gets. I would, for me, buying a watch as a mechanical thing is very important, typically. And the Citizen Eco Drive stuff, or any Quartz or solar watch, Seiko solar stuff is cool. It's great in terms of being a tool watch. You never have to wind it. You never have to set it. The solar stuff, you never even have to change the battery. It's a true throw it on and don't think about it kind of thing. And so if that's what you're looking for out of a watch, never really have to wind it, never really have to set it, never really have to do anything besides put it on. Great products. But that's not why I love watches. And if you love watches because of their connections to engineering and machinery, I would say get the automatic. Ted Theo Logan says, do you guys use adaptive cruise control regularly? I spent 1,000 miles in my wife's Mazda 3, and I don't think I like it or have a use case for it.
What? Yeah. I mean,
I use it all the
time.
Yeah, all the time.
Maybe traffic doesn't vary in speed very much where Ted lives, but around
even
here,
if it does. Yeah, if I'm going more than 10 or 15 miles on the freeway, I'm using it. I guess it depends if your car has a good system or not. I don't really recall. It's been probably 2 or 3 years since I've driven a Mazda 3, so I can't really remember. But for instance, my electric Ford, which is a very good system, if I'm on the highway at all, really, I'm setting it at 80 and following the car in front of me at a reasonable distance and not touching pedals, just steering. And I really like it. It's great. I've used it on short drives. I've used it on long drives. And if you're using a system that is good, yeah, awesome. Right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Dante says, what are some unique road designs you've experienced in the US or abroad? Examples include the Michigan left or the New Jersey jug handles. Where those are two good examples. Michigan lefts fucking suck. I hate those Michigan lefts. They're dumb. I'm sure there's a good traffic flow related reason for them, but God, do I hate those.
Yeah, basically you can't turn left at the light. You have to go past it, do a U-turn in a special lane, and then you make a right.
In Texas, they have those. It's similar to a Michigan left, but they have those the divided overpasses where you have like the U-turn, lane. It's like those big service roads, right? Like 3 lanes. Yeah. And then you've got I'm making a left, and then you've got I'm making a U-turn, and they're divided. And you got to make that choice well before you get there. I don't love those. Those aren't so great. It's very rare that I see a unique road design that is good. Fucking Dubai without like a really good GPS is a nightmare. The Texas U-turn. Yeah. Those are not great.
Everything's a freeway in Texas, basically.
Yeah.
It's like an exit.
Dubai, the signs when you're merging from freeways don't say Route 12 north and south. They only say the cities where it terminates. And so if you're not going to either of those cities, and it doesn't always go the way you think it's going to go. Like they'll go one and then they'll cross, and you'll end up having to do a whole lap of the fucking city. It's a nightmare.
But if you're visiting and you don't know what that city is where it terminates, you're like, which direction is that?
Mm-hmm.
If you're just trying to go 2 miles to a hotel.
I haven't been in a long time, but at the last time I was there, which was 2015, the government owned the telecom, and it was very expensive for foreigners to use data. And so it was like prohibitively expensive to use my cell phone as GPS at that time. I hope it's been changed since then. I forgot one.
Did you see this story? It went around on Instagram. When you're on the 110 heading east and you have to get on I-5 north, and it's like weird. You have to be, so for people who aren't from here, it's a very weird, somewhat dangerous exit. It's like you have to be in the left lane only. It is a very sudden left turn from a 65 mile per hour highway onto like a downhill ski slope switchback type thing.
Right.
So for a long time, there was no sign that said that was the exit. It just would say 5 north this direction. But
you mean the guy who made his own sign?
Yeah. So an artist made a sign and went up there in the middle of the day wearing a hard hat he bought at Home Depot, added an arrow and a thing that said like this lane only. And it's been there for years. And Caltrans went, oh yeah, sure. That's fine. Like it helps.
Yeah.
So you get in trouble. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And also very sad that it was needed.
That story just came out again, but I remember reading it 10 years ago on like Cracked or one of those websites. It had been out there before. But yeah, he actually just like, he did it as like a social commentary art installation, but then they were like, oh yeah, good idea. He
was like, this needs to be here, and it does, and they left it. Yeah.
Yes. Sean Smith needs a luxury coupe daily driver to complement a 5-car fleet. I have a Model Y, a 280Z, an MR2, and an FRS. Should I get an Audi RS5, a Mercedes C63, or a Lexus RCF? Probably the RS5, I think.
Yeah.
I don't like the RCF so much, and C63 with the 6.3 V8.
I mean, that's a great engine, but a bad transmission.
I'd probably just want the Audi or the Audi RS5. He's got a couple other very engaging cars.
Yeah, and the RS5, I think the interior looks a little bit more timelessly elegant than the Mercedes of that generation. Doesn't that Mercedes, doesn't it have the old cell phone buttons like on the next to the
dial
radio?
pad?
Yeah. Doesn't age great.
Yeah. Luke says, are there any ugly cars that are fully redeemed by a fantastic interior?
Denim Gremlin, apparently.
Yeah. Ugly cars redeemed by a fantastic interior. Nothing really comes to mind. Ugly cars? I'm trying to think of like
new BMWs.
What car? Yeah, I mean the M2 has a really nice interior. Yep. And that's pretty ugly.
Or the M3.
I haven't been in the new 7 Series, but I
X5.
imagine that probably has a nice interior.
Yeah, I would say all of their entire lineup could basically answer this question.
Last generation Lexus LX, like the Lexus Land Cruiser with that big ugly mouth, that had a great interior.
That's true.
Yeah. Thomas wanted to talk about roundabouts, but we already covered that. Andrew says, thoughts on these manufacturers skipping the design of a dashboard and just putting on tablet-shaped screens. We did talk about this last week. Is this your note, Zach? I think we talked about this last week.
Affirmative.
Yeah, I think there is design there. Just because you don't like the design doesn't mean that's not design. But yeah, tablets are highly functional. They're something that we are now very used to. And they're upgradable. They're cheap and much cheaper than regular buttons. And manufacturers are trying to squeeze profit out of these cars while adding functionality at the same time. I mean, that's just what it is. And I think the average non-enthusiast, the average consumer sees a tablet or a big screen as being futuristic and advanced. It's only us fucking cranky enthusiasts that, well, I don't want to say that because there's been some stories recently that consumers are souring on screens, but I think that the manufacturers think that their customers like screens.
Which makes sense when we are interacting with screens more and more with, smartphone, tablet, TV, computer. I feel like it's a natural progression for the cars to kind of go that direction, and maybe we're learning they swung too far.
This is a great question. Bad Gardener says, be a lifestyle podcast for the next 60 seconds. Do you have cheap wines, magic deodorants, etc., or other great products to recommend? That's a pretty good one, actually. They're an advertiser now, but the AeroPress is the best coffee maker in history, and we were using it long before they advertised. What, Zach? You okay?
Yeah, I gotta just keep going.
Okay. Let's see. What else? I'm trying to think. What else is in my house that's like amazing that I love and use all the time? I have this little stand thing that is holding my laptop up, like vertically, and I'll show it, but like this, that raises my laptop. That's That's really functional. I bought a second monitor off an Instagram ad that was $350, and it looks like an iPad Pro, but it's just a monitor that is powered by USB-C. I think it's called Espresso displays, and I'm now carrying that around everywhere. That's fucking great. Let's see. Magic deodorants.
Magic deodorants.
Yeah, I don't have any like great products. My Moleskine notebooks, awesome. Those zebra pens they sent us are really great. Love the zebra pens.
I mean, a frugal hack is you can mail out for a sampler of colognes from a company, and they'll give you like 6 to 8 of them, and then you get them for free, and cologne lasts a long time.
That lasts a very long time.
I feel like that lines up with the cheap wine. I don't know, cheap wine is hard. I feel like I drank something recently that was only like $20 and it was really good.
Air tags, gotta have air tags. They're fucking useful for all kind of stuff. I don't have anything else that's like, wow, this was $2. I mean, I'm sure I do somewhere. It's a great question, though. I'll consider that for next show. Maybe I can make a list of the things I love in my life.
Bring a water bottle to airports, and you can refill it for free and save yourself $6 to $12.
Yeah, wife does that. Christian Pelfrey, when will you review the Mazda CX-90? Never. It just won't do well on our. I mean, maybe we could get one and talk about it on the podcast, but there won't be like a video of it. Just they're not worth making. Aiden Squires, I feel like people have asked us this before. Yeah. Ultimate last drive, road and car. Swiss Alps, McLaren F1.
I think because I just read the new Road and Track, I'd go Ferrari F50 and try that out somewhere and anywhere that suits that car.
RD Speed Garage, watched your video on the Gen 2 Ford GT. Do you still feel the same way about it today? At this price, is there something else you would choose over this for long-term ownership? Well, I haven't looked back at the thing I did in 2017 in 5 years. I haven't really driven one since then. So I don't know what I said.
I would buy one of those if I could immediately. Like they look great. They sound great. We know that the aero is amazing. The powertrain is super robust. They drive well, reasonably reliable, as long as you get the 4 GT guys to come and do the maintenance on it. Like
you mean he says he's talking about Gen 2, like the current one.
Oh, I thought, I was counting the first one from the 60s as Gen 1. My mistake. All right. Gen 2 has not interested me. I think it is one of the most beautiful cars ever made, but between transmission, engine, I don't know. I never drove one though. So speaking out of school.
It was an amazing experience to drive it. It's clearly a homologation race car. There are very few truly homologated race cars in the world these days, and that's one of them. I would rather have an 04 to 06 GT because as a road car, it's a better road car to me. So I'd rather have that. And I'm pretty sure I said that in the video. The performance of a Gen 2 car is batshit, but I don't necessarily need that in my life. Micah Moore says, how do you plan a story around a car you've never driven? Do you write both outcomes? If a car is great or terrible, do you leave enough leeway for editorializing on the fly? I write the first part of the video based on technical data provided to us from the manufacturer, vibes, and historical context. We then record the in-car, and if there is not an obvious conclusion with the in-car, I write the conclusion after we've driven it. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jacia wants specifics on ordering my special watch. Basically, here's how it works. Once they are ready to take orders, they will provide me the order link. I will then post that link in the Patreon feed, which is where you will get it in an email. You then want to buy it that day. When you get the email that says, here's the link to order the watch, you should buy it that very day. Otherwise, you might not get it, even if you're a patron. We have 90 watches to sell. The first 10 are going to people that I know personally and who get priority, and then patrons get the next 90. So you don't need to monitor anything else besides your Patreon email that's going to say, here's the link to buy it. And then you should buy it that day. Okay, wait. Okay. Greg says, went on a long road trip recently and rented a few different hybrid and plug-in hybrid vehicles on Turo to try something new. I tried a Pacifica hybrid, RAV4 Prime, and CRV hybrid. I love the cars, but got annoyed with the generic eco versus power meters. I understand that with hybrids and EVs, things like coolant temps and oil pressure are not something to be monitored, but wanted your opinion on what information should be on the screen. You know, that gauge, that eco power gauge, I feel like they just put that gauge there so that something moves around a lot. Remember like the BMW fuel economy gauge that just went back and forth and back and forth? People like gauges that actually move a lot, I think. Yeah. And they just put that there for that.
I think there's also some game theory where you get to play a game of like, ooh, can I stay in the eco range? And it's like a weird little video game for you while you drive.
Yeah. Yeah. It also is good programming for the driver, you know?
Yeah.
My Ford has a good one, which is just, it's typically hybrids that have that gauge. The Prius did it first. The Prius had that schematic of the car, and it showed the flow of power around the car, and everyone's kind of done it from them. My car just has the regen braking coach. So if you use the regen instead of the brake pedal, and you can use it all the way, it gives you a percentage from 0 to 100 of how good and efficient your braking was. So that's a good game. Come to a stop without touching the pedal. It's like 100% perfect score. So there's that.
I like it on EVs too, because I like paying attention to how much of the power I'm using versus how much I'm actually recharging it by slowing down. And I think, like you said, it coaches the driver to be more aware of how they are using, whether, gasoline or charge.
Chris says, does your foot ever slip while heel and towing? This has happened to me a few times and given me a big scare.
Never. We are perfect.
It's happened to me a couple of times. Yeah. My foot has slipped off pedals. Yeah. I mean, I would try not to be at the limit where that's happened. If you're driving on a public road and you're not leaving yourself room for that kind of thing, you're going too fast on a public road. You shouldn't be like threshold braking on a public road. But good footwear, good pedal placement, and good foot technique. It shouldn't happen too often. Probably happens to me like once a year.
Yeah. I mean, and look, if you're heel toe braking and your foot slips off your brake pedal, you can always just jump full clutch and then just modulate the brake and coast through the corner. Like you can just throw away the corner. You don't have to stay on the gas because you have fucked up your downshift or whatever. Like you said, leave a cushion and then have a plan for when that happens that, leads to you getting successfully around the corner.
Okay. 3 more. Your Uber driver says, I have a 2013 Mini with a 6-speed base model, fun to drive. It's stock, but it's clean, and it needs minimal TLC. I'm planning to do some mods and even K-swap it in the future. Is it worth further investing in this car to make it my own and enjoy it? Or should I sell it as is and go all in for an NC Miata or GR86 and enjoy a rear-wheel drive experience? I've never owned a manual rear-wheel drive car, and I also have a 4Runner. I mean, that's a weird question because you're asking us to tell you what experience you want to have. Like, Do you want to have a rear wheel drive experience? Like, then sure, sell it and get a rear wheel drive car. You don't need a back seat in your car because you have a 4Runner for when you need to carry around more people. You know, but would I K-swap a base Mini? Like, probably not. I don't know. That doesn't seem like a undertaking that's worth doing. I mean, I don't think you should put too much emphasis on front wheel drive versus rear wheel drive unless it's an experience you want to have. If you want to have a rear wheel drive sports car experience, the Miata and the 86 are both great, and you don't need a back seat because you have another car. Would I do a bunch of mods and K-swap a base Mini? Probably not. For what it would cost to do that, you could probably just buy the Miata or the 86 outright and have a third car. Like, if you wanted to K-swap something, like, I would sell the Mini and get a Fit and do a K24 swap in that, which would be much more affordable, much more plug and play, and you'd have a rocket ship.
Yeah. And there's going to be form instructions on how to do it because you're not the first one to do it. I mean,
Right.
a K-swap Mini sounds cool, but so much of this depends on what is your mechanical ability. Have you ever done a swap like that before? Is this like your first project idea, which seems way too ambitious?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Right. Ben says, are you excited for the new Land Cruiser? No, don't care.
I want to see it in person.
Am I excited for it? No, I don't give a shit. It looks nice, but like, I'm not in the market, so I don't care. People that are Land Cruiser people are excited for it. I'm excited for the McLaren 750. Leonard Meredith. Speaking of McLaren, I need to replace the tires on my 720S. The stock P0s were definitely not up for the test. Would Cup 2s be a good choice? Or do you have another suggestion? Use mostly for spirited weekend group drives. You do not need Cup 2s.
Correct.
You do not need any R compound tire for a McLaren 720.
And your group drive, I don't know where you live, but if rain suddenly appeared on your group drive with Cup 2s, then you will be very slow and nervous for the entire drive.
Yeah, I would recommend a PS4S Michelin, or I mean, if you didn't like the Pirelli P0s, you may want to go to a P0 Corsa, which is, you don't want the Trofeo. That's the Cup 2, the Cup 2 equivalent, but the Corsa might have some more grip. I thought the P0s on the 720 were all right. They definitely, if you don't think they're enough, I would probably go with a Michelin PS4S. When you're talking about 800 horsepower, that's really the best tire around for that, or a Pirelli Corsa. All right, that's our show. We are back live, folks. What, tomorrow? Tuesday, 9 a.m. We've got Jesse Singer coming on the show from New York. Jesse is the author of a great book called There Are No Accidents. The term accident is used usually following the word car, but that is a term that for many reasons is wildly misleading and deflects a lot of blame for what causes a crash, a death, and also it's not just about cars. It's about homes. It's about accident-prone people. It's about what type of people are victims of accidents, what type of people are not victims of accidents, and how that does relate to cars. This was a great book. Jesse was on parental leave, and so I finished the book several months ago, and but I've been waiting to get Jesse on the podcast ever since, and really excited to talk to her about this tomorrow. And so if you're watching live tomorrow, Tuesday, the 1st at 9 a.m. Pacific, otherwise, or 9:30 a.m. Pacific, otherwise Thursday for the rest of you guys, send your tea bags to Zach for his throat because it's fucked. And thanks for listening. We'll see you later.